The Forest Spirit, also called Shishigami during the day and the Nightwalker at night. It is one of the strangest and most mysterious beings in Princess Mononoke, and maybe in all of Studio Ghibli's stories. It isn't a god in the usual way we think of one, but more like a spirit of nature, following the ideas of Shinto belief, where gods are part of the natural world itself. In the daylight, it looks like a calm, deer-like creature with a human face, and tree-branch antlers that seem to change slightly each time we see it. Its feet don't just touch the ground. Wherever it walks, plants grow and then fade, and it can also walk on water. And this spirit has the power to give life, but it can just as easily take it away without warning. At night, it turns into the Nightwalker, a huge glowing figure filled with stars, almost like a living galaxy. It moves across the land silently, with a shape that looks partly human. Early in the movie, the main character, Ashitaka, is cursed by a deadly infection, and when he meets the forest spirit, it heals the wound, though not fully removing the infection. And later, when a dying boar god is brought into the forest, the spirit comes, looks at him without emotion, and ends his life quietly. It feels like an act of mercy, but also shows how distant and calm the spirit is. Later, Lady Eboshi shoots off the forest spirit's head as it shifts between forms, and this leads to disaster. The now headless giant roams around leaking black liquid that kills everything it touches, plants, animals, and rivers. But when Ashitaka and Sam bring the head back, the spirit doesn't get angry. It rises into the sky and bursts into light. Then the forest begins to heal, plants return, sunlight breaks through, and nature starts to recover. And it's a powerful moment showing what happens when humans try to control or destroy nature. And what makes the forest spirit so strange is that it doesn't act like a person or like anything. It doesn't talk, it doesn't explain itself, and doesn't seem to care. It's like facing something huge and unknown, like the ocean or a black hole. It's beautiful and powerful, but impossible to truly understand. SCP-173. It is the first and arguably the most iconic entry in the SCP Foundation database. It is described as a roughly humanoid statue made of concrete and rubber, with a vaguely reptilian or skull-like face and short, muscular limbs. Despite its crude, static appearance, it is an extremely hostile entity, known for snapping the necks of its victims with lightning speed the moment they look away. It can only move when unobserved. The moment direct eye contact is broken, even for a blink, it closes the distance in an instant and kills. No one knows where it came from, and the SCP Foundation offers no background or explanation for its origin. It simply appeared one day and had to be immediately locked in a reinforced containment cell, monitored by at least 3 people at all times, with protocols requiring synchronized blinking to ensure it's never left unobserved. There are no motives, no backstory, and no face to empathize with. Just a brutal, unexplained rule. Some suggest it's an eldritch entity in disguise, others call it a punishment artifact or a dimensional hitchhiker, but nothing is canon, and that void of knowledge is part of what makes it terrifying. SCP-173 redefined digital horror. It became the internet's answer to Slenderman or Cthulhu. It appears in numerous games, most famously in SCP Containment Breach, where players must physically manage blinking or be killed instantly. So the mechanic forces players to experience that same creeping anxiety. And you can see echoes of SCP-173 in the Weeping Angels from Doctor Who, or in mechanics from indie horror games, where line of sight and observation become part of the gameplay. The Pale Man. A creepy human-like child-eating monster encountered in the dark fantasy film Pan's Labyrinth. He appears in a single scene, yet that scene has become one of the most iconic moments in horror cinema. This creature is a humanoid, pale as parchment, with loose sagging flesh and no visible eyes on his face. Instead, his eyeballs rest in the center of his long skeletal hands, which he raises to his face like a mask when he wants to see. The Pale Man sits motionless, at the head of a long, candlelit table filled with golden cups, meats, and fruits. He looks like a lifeless corpse, slumped on a throne, but the moment someone dares to eat from his feast, he comes to life. In Pan's Labyrinth, the young girl Ophelia is told not to touch the food during her quest, but she gives in and eats a few grapes. And that's when the horror begins. The Pale Man awakens, slowly rising as his limbs crack and stretch. His eyes slide into the palms of his hands, and he begins to move. He doesn't scream or charge, he shuffles slowly, clicking his nails on the floor, sniffing the air, with his slow chase filled with dread and tension. Every sound he makes is meant to get under your skin. This creature isn't just a scary monster, it's packed with meaning. Like all of Guillermo del Toro's creations, the Pale Man is a symbol of greed, cruelty, and fascism. His table is overflowing, but he doesn't eat. He hoards the food, waiting to punish anyone else who dares to take it. And behind him, there are drawings of him eating children, revealing his true hunger. And his lair looks like a twisted temple or courtroom, hinting at corrupt systems that claim to offer safety and wealth, but secretly harm the innocent. And there's also a strong religious undertone. The setting resembles the Last Supper, with the pale man seated like a dark, evil priest or god. And Ophelia's mistake, eating a grape, echoes the story of Eve and the forbidden fruit. But here the sin is small. She's just a hungry child. And like I mentioned, even though he only appears in one scene, the Pale Man has become one of horror's most memorable figures. Fans draw him, filmmakers study him, and his design is praised for its blend of practical effects and deep symbolism. He's the perfect example of Del Toro's style, where myth, history, and horror all come together to create something unforgettable. Slake Moths. They are some of the most unique and terrifying monsters in modern fantasy, appearing in Perdido Street Station by China Mieville. They come from a strange dreamlike dimension and feed on human dreams, with huge, colorful wings that shift in impossible patterns and long, bug-like bodies. They look like a mix between a moth, a praying mantis, and something godlike. But their most disturbing feature is their human-like eyes, showing they are far more than just animals. Visually, they are both beautiful and horrible, like stained glass monsters with a dreamlike shimmer, and their movements bend the air, graceful yet wrong, as if they bring unreality with them. When their wings open, you are hypnotized, and the patterns they display trap people in a trance, disabling their minds. It's like a visual weapon that breaks down the brain's defenses, and then they feed on your dreams and imagination itself. After an attack, people aren't dead, but they are not really alive either. Survivors are left in a blank, helpless state, silent, drooling and empty. Their souls are fully absorbed. So the damage is mental and spiritual. The Slake Moth erases what makes you, you. And of course these creatures weren't born in the city of New Carbazon, the city where the events take place, but they were smuggled in by criminals, hoping to use them as living weapons. But they can't be tamed. They break free, spreading across the city, and no bullets or magic can stop them. And that's the scariest part. It's the way others react. Experts from every field, scientists, wizards, thinkers, try to understand the moths, using every method they know, but the more they try, the less they understand. Nothing works. Science fails, magic fails, and the Slake Moths don't fit into any known system. And that's why these creatures remain mysterious, like a bad dream that slips away the moment you wake up. Angel Ramiel. It is the fifth angel in Neon Genesis Evangelion, first seen in episode 5, and it immediately breaks the usual idea of what a monster should look like. Instead of being scary or humanoid like most anime creatures, Ramiel appears as a giant blue octahedron, a floating, 8-sided crystal shape. It has no arms, no face, no voice, just a silent, shining form that hangs in the sky like some strange alien god made of pure geometry. It doesn't roar or move like a typical monster. Instead, it gives off a low, eerie hum and floats with perfect, robotic smoothness, as if it's driven by math instead of feelings. In Evangelion's lore, angels come from ancient beings called Adam and Lilith, creatures tied to the roots of life itself. The angels represent what life could have become if it evolved differently from humans, and Ramiel shows this idea clearly. It's not made of flesh, but something more advanced, more abstract. It feels less like a creature and more like a thinking machine or a cosmic weapon. The name Ramiel comes from old religious texts and means thunder of God. And it's not evil, it just exists in a way where human life doesn't matter to it. And its main weapon is a deadly particle beam that can slice through buildings, armor, and defenses in a split second. On top of that, it's protected by an AT field, an energy shield so strong that most attacks can't even touch it. So regular weapons fail, and getting close means certain death. And in the updated movie version, Evangelion 1.0, You Are Not Alone, Ramiel becomes even more terrifying. It no longer stays still, it moves and changes shape during the fight, turning into drills, spikes, or shields as needed. It adjusts in real time, as if it's learning and improving, and its scream is now mechanical and twisted, adding to its alien feel. Ramiel doesn't talk, doesn't show feelings, and doesn't even seem to notice people. It's made of light, sound, and perfect shapes, and that's what makes it so unsettling. It's not a creature, it's like a deadly idea brought to life. Pyramid Head. Also known as the Red Pyramid Thing, he first appeared in Silent Hill 2 back in 2001 and quickly became the most famous figure in the series. He's a tall, muscular figure wearing a butcher's apron and dragging a huge, rusted blade behind him called the Great Knife. And his most disturbing feature is, you guessed it, the large, metal, pyramid helmet bolted to his shoulders, hiding his face completely and making him seem less like a man and more like a monster. He never talks, never runs, but he always moves with purpose. But he ain't a scary monster in the traditional sense. He's a symbol. He represents guilt, punishment, and repressed emotions. He's closely connected to James Sunderland, the main character of Silent Hill 2, and everything about him reflects James' troubled mind. The helmet, the weapon, the violence, it's all part of James' inner pain. And Pyramid Head doesn't just chase James around, he appears at important moments, usually without warning, acting like a haunting presence that forces James to face what he's done. And one of the most disturbing things about Pyramid Head is how he treats the other monsters. He's often shown violently attacking the strange, feminine creatures of Silent Hill, like the mannequins. And these moments aren't just for shock, they show James' hidden guilt, anger, and shame over his wife's illness and death. In fights, Pyramid Head moves slowly, but hits with terrifying power, and the screech of metal usually lets you know he's nearby, building dread before you even see him. So he's James' own personal judge and executioner, created by the town itself, which can bring people's darkest thoughts to life. And in the game's final moments, James faces two Pyramid Heads, showing the full weight of his guilt. And after James accepts the truth, the Pyramid Heads kill themselves, a sign that their job is done. They were never real monsters, they were pieces of James' mind. And once he begins to forgive himself, they disappear. Pyramid Head has appeared in the Silent Hill movie, and even Dead by Daylight, but outside of Silent Hill 2, he often loses his deeper meaning. He wasn't designed to be just another monster. His purpose was tied specifically to James' story, and without that context, he becomes less of a symbol and more of a slasher. Still, his unforgettable design, heavy presence, and psychological meaning have made him a true icon in horror. The Amalgamates, a group of strange, broken creatures hidden deep inside Undertale's true lab, a secret area you can only find on the true pacifist route. They are the result of failed experiments by Dr. Alphys, the royal scientist who tried to bring dead monsters back to life using a powerful substance called determination. But things went horribly wrong. Instead of reviving them, the substance fused their bodies and souls together, creating these twisted, glitch-like beings that are part monster, part mistake, and part sadness. Each amalgamate is made from several monsters. Their bodies melted and mixed into unnatural shapes. Limbs grow where they shouldn't, faces blur into other body parts, and some don't even have a clear form. Just blobs of flesh, shifting eyes, and creepy sounds. And they twitch, they laugh at odd times, and they speak in ways that make no sense. They feel like something out of a horror movie, part David Cronenberg, part Junji Ito, making them stand out from anything you've seen before in Undertale. And these creatures were once normal monsters, parents, pets, children. Some still remember bits of their old lives. Some examples of these amalgamates include Indogeny, a dog-like mass of smiling faces and shifting limbs, made from multiple canines. It plays fetch but doesn't understand why. It drools and spins and dances in ways both cute and terrifying. There's Reaper Bird, a haunting fusion of Final Frogget, Whimsalot, and Astigmatism, and Lemon Bread, a terrifying, fanged amalgamation with multiple heads, and its name referencing the monsters that formed it. It sings distorted lullabies and calls out to forgotten family members. Their appearance completely changes the tone of the game. Up to that point, Undertale had been quirky, funny, and even lighthearted, but in the True Lab, things turn dark. The music grows haunting, the dialogue becomes cryptic, and the visuals glitch. And the Amalgamates also reveal a darker side of Alphys' character. She had promised the families of these monsters that she could bring their loved ones back. But when her work failed, she locked the Amalgamates away, too ashamed to admit what happened. Yet even among the horror, at the end of the true pacifist route, Alphys finally redeems herself by reuniting the Amalgamates with their families, who accept them regardless of how they now appear. The Baby. In David Lynch's Eraserhead, the baby is the child of the film's protagonist, Henry Spencer, and his girlfriend Mary. Shortly after their disturbing, awkward dinner scene with Mary's family, she gives birth to a child that is not even remotely human. The baby is a small, grey reptilian creature wrapped in bandages with an elongated neck, a constantly twitching face, and wide, wet eyes. It cries constantly in a high-pitched voice that seems to never stop. The baby is both incredibly fragile and oppressively present. At times it appears to be sick, leaking strange fluids from its bandages, forcing Henry into a role he clearly isn't ready for. And Lynch has never publicly explained what was used to create it, adding to its unsettling aura. and the baby's origin within the narrative is left deliberately ambiguous. It's never explained why it looks the way it does or what it actually is. Is it deformed, alien, symbolic? And since the movie itself feels more like a dream than a traditional story, the baby seems to represent Henry's fear and anxiety, especially around becoming a parent. And the baby works on two levels. On one hand, it reflects real fears, like the panic that comes with unexpected fatherhood or the horror of something going wrong with your child. On the other, it feels like a deeper, existential creature, something that doesn't belong to any known category of life. It never grows, speaks, or shows signs of change, like a parasite feeding on Henry's sense of self. And when the father finally tries to sever his connection to it, things only become more surreal and horrific. David Lynch's refusal to explain the baby's true nature, both in and out of universe, cements its status as one of fiction's weirdest creatures. There's no official answer to what it is or what it means. It defies interpretation, much like the rest of Eraserhead.